My name is Bobby. This book was written so I would never forget where I was, how much I accomplished, and where I came from. I spent most of my 20s in and out of treatment ranging from 30 days to 13 months. There was something missing, something that I just struggled to let go of. As I look back now, I can see it was shame. It was the shame of being an addict, almost as if I just didn't feel accepted. And in 2013, I didn't have anywhere else to go, and I went to live with my Aunt Renee.
Addiction is a disease, and it's not a parenting problem, or it's not something that should be shameful.
Being part of a community that embraced me and allowed me to believe in myself helped my journey through recovery to begin. And it wasn't until I could believe in myself that I could start getting better.
Community helped lessen the shame and stigma of his disease, and ultimately helped Bobby save himself. They gave him love, they gave him faith, they gave him trust, they gave him his self-esteem back.
I was centered around people that did care for me, and they loved me, and it's a great feeling knowing that people see you for who you are, and they don't see you for what you've gone through.
If I could get the word out that recovery is just beginning once they leave rehab, I think we could really help.
Slowly I started seeing that I did deserve to be happy, and I started to become happy.
There's so much more we can do, and I feel that I wrote this because we must do more. And Bobby's story is important. He ultimately saved himself, but I feel we can save so many more.
Okay, hi Renee.
Hi,
Thank you for joining us today.
Thrilled to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Well, that was intense, I would say. Your trailer is very intense. It looks like your book is very intense.
Well, I think it's not as intense as you would think, because although it's gripping in a roller coaster, it's very inspiring, very hopeful, and very encouraging. And those would be the words I would try to get out to people about reading the book.
Good. Those are good words, inspiring and hopeful. How did it? I know that the book was released yesterday. How did it do yesterday?
Oh boy, talk about a roller coaster. What a great day. I think it's gone really well. I've heard Amazon sold out and has reordered. I also have heard that there's a banner that went up, which is what every author would like, is Amazon gracing your book with a banner of being #1 in the bestseller category of drug dependency.
Awesome.
So I was very excited about that. And what I think I'm really most excited about, Anne, is that I have heard from so many people around the United States that I have not heard from probably since I was in grade school or high school. They have found the book, they're reading it, and they're just writing that it has touched their lives. And that's what I think is the most important thing.
Oh, good. That's great. And I heard you had a book review yesterday.
I did.
Good. How did that go?
Well, it was my first by Facebook interview where you type, and that is called a pop-in. It's called The Novel Bee. And so anybody can join, anybody can ask questions. And I was just so excited to be on it, and such gracious host, and the people that interviewed and were asking questions. It was just fun, and it was light, but yet it was very informative, and they all had been affected in some way by the epidemic that we have here in the United States.
Right, the opiate epidemic,
Yes.
is affecting the United States very
Yes.
dramatically. What inspired you to take the book public?
Well, it wasn't my intention at first to even write a book for the public. Bobby had come to me when he was leaving my home to go on and pursue a career and go back to school. And he had asked me to please write his story. He, as you saw in the video, he never wanted to forget where he came from, and he never wanted to go back to that hell. And so I said, of course, I would love to do that. It was actually a labor of love for me. So I went back through all my emails first and sent, received. Then I went back through text. And I also went to a journal that I used all the way through the time that Bobby was with me. And I journaled late at night so that I could relieve anxiety. I found that was the way that would help me to go to sleep at night. And so I pulled all those together for Bobby. But before I gave it to him, because it was going to be a present, I asked one of my book clubs to read it. I said, what do you think? And because they lived this with me. They were part of my community to help Bobby. And they read it and they were like, Renee, you've got to do something with this. And then they asked me, do you mind if I send it to my sister? Do you mind if I send it to my friend in Oregon? Do you mind if I send it to my friend in Canada? And I was like, well, let me talk to Bobby. And Bobby was like, Aunt Nay, which is what he calls me. He says, Aunt Nay, he goes, I think we can really help people. I think we can really take the shame and stigma out of this disease by sharing our story. And that's how it started. So I went back, I took Bobby's story, what I had written to him personally, I just laid myself out there, and I changed it as a memoir, which is where you still see the vulnerability in the book. Mm-hmm. Reader reading it feels like they are on my journey, because essentially they are reading what I was thinking right at the time and as it was going on. And I think that's the beauty of the book. Those that know nothing, those that have never experienced addiction will know exactly how it feels in almost the real time. They go through the whole process with me. And this is not about addiction. I keep saying this is about recovery, because this is where I feel the book should be talked about. Recovery is when recovery is just beginning when someone leaves the doors of a rehab center, when they are leaving a halfway house. It is just beginning. A lot of times we think that someone coming out of a rehab or treatment center, okay, they're substance free. So the parents say, go get a job, go live a normal life. Mm-hmm. Or if it's a husband, come on, go back, go right out into the world. They are not normal. They have so many things, the obstacles to overcome, to assimilate back into society, beginning with shame and stigma. And that is one of the most difficult things for somebody that is recovering to overcome. It is also a problem with the family. The family has shame, and they feel that there's a stigma. So they hide. They say, my husband, he's been off on a business trip. My son, he's been off at school. My daughter, she's at a job in LA. And this it does not help a recovery.
Right. The secrets.
Secrets make you sick, my friend. And that is one of the things I have been saying.
Right, exactly. How does Bobby feel about his life being public now?
Well, it was Bobby who came to me and discussed after I'd said, oh, Bobby, my book club is asking me, please let me share your story. It can help people. And he was the one that said, well, maybe we should take it public. And he said, I'd like to speak on this subject someday. And
Wow.
I was like, well, if I can help you, if this is what your goal is, this is just an extension of what I was doing for him when he was with me. I'm still supporting him. And if I could support him by making this my memoir and putting this out, Bobby's the real hero here in the community. And I'm just a part of that. But Bobby really had to be the courageous one to stand up and say, look at me. Let's take the shame out.
Wow.
Take the stigma out.
Wow. How did you get the community involved in supporting Bobby?
Well, it wasn't a conscious choice. I knew that taking care of Bobby would be an overwhelming job. I didn't know that before he came, but I did find that out once he was under my roof. It was just something I did naturally. I put an email out. Bobby was very open about his addiction and his recovery. I think he was going on 7 years now, in and out, and not able to stay substance free. So he needed jobs. He needed money. I put an email out and said to my friends and my tennis friends, my Bible study friends, my community at large, and said, look, my nephew's here, just come out of recovery. He's trying to get a new start in a new place. If you can help him, please, walking dogs, gardening, mowing your lawn, whatever it took. I said he'd even change a light bulb. And overwhelming response from my friends and my community.
Wow. That's amazing that people would come together like that.
They did. And as they did, every little thing they did helped with his self-esteem. A really short story about how the community came and how it changed Bobby and how important it is for the person in recovery is that Bobby came to me in the first few weeks and he said, Aunt Nay, Mrs. Woolman, she asked me to walk her dog. And I was like, well, great. You need the money. And he's like, no, you don't understand. She asked me to walk her dog. And I was like, I don't understand, Bobby. And then his face told it all. He said, she trusts me. No one has trusted me for 7 years. Ever since I went into recovery, ever since I became an addict and went into recovery, no one has trusted me with anything. He said, and she's trusting me with her dog that she loves. And I said, well, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to be the best dog walker I can be. He washed that dog, took care of that dog. He was the best dog walker because he told me I am not going to fail.
Wow. Gosh, you're going to make me cry.
Yeah. I cry all the time when I think about how people came out and how those little gestures of trust, having him over for dinner, taking him to ball games, just talking to him like he was what he was in recovery, had a brain disease. They didn't talk to him like there was something wrong with him. They talked to him like he had a disease and was in recovery. And that is what allowed him to finally gain the self-esteem and finally decide he didn't want to fail. He didn't. And he did not fail.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. He, you know, opiate addiction grabs people. It's not like they choose it, especially if they have an illness that, and I understand that's
With,
what happened with Bobby. Is that
yes.
he had an illness that initially is the reason that he was on the opiates, right?
Yes, when he was in college and he had a back problem, and he actually went to a specialist in Texas. And at that point, I'm not sure, but I don't think they knew that opioids were so addictive. So when he was given the prescription, and he was already was predisposed. We have an alcohol and addiction gene that runs through our family, and so being predisposed, I feel that that giving him that prescription, that it just zing. You never know. You just never know. And so he became addicted in college. By the time he graduated, he was full-blown heroin addict, and he struggled ever since.
Wow. Wow. So tell me about, what was your life like before Bobby came?
Well, now I think it was boring compared to what my life is right now. But I wouldn't change a thing. I feel really lucky. I feel really blessed that we could have Bobby in our lives, because not only do I think that his success has changed our lives, but we've learned so much, and it's changed my views. It's helped me understand addiction in my own family, and helped me understand others that are recovering. Addiction is a brain disease. It's not a parenting failure. It's not a character flaw. And we can't treat someone who's coming out of recovery as if there's something wrong with them. And especially opioid and heroin addicts. They feel it much more, because even alcoholics will say, at least I'm not doing that. And so it's a terrible shame and stigma for them. And I think that's where the no blame, no shame comes in. I think with the moniker that we've been using, the hashtag.
Mm-hmm. That was my next question.
Yeah. Oh, but please, what's your question?
Tell me about the no blame, no shame. What exactly does that mean? And what does that entail?
Well, and so to keep going with what I was just saying, is that I think that we have to take the shame out of the disease, much like was done with, say, breast cancer. When I was growing up, you couldn't say the C word, much less breast cancer. And now the stigma is gone, the shame is gone from that disease, and you can even put "Save the Tatas" on your bumper sticker. And so also think of domestic violence.
Right.
If you grew up with someone who had black eyes all the time, every time you asked them about it, they would say, "I fell down the stairs," because, oh my gosh, the shame and stigma of being an abused wife or husband, it was terrible. But now, no more. And the same thing goes with workplace harassment. Look what's happening right now in our world with the Me Too movement. That's where I want to go with the no blame, no shame. I believe that we can start a conversation. And by starting this conversation of taking the shame, the stigma out of the disease, I believe possibly we might be able to start a movement. And that's my grand hope, really, because I think that's the only way ultimately we will be able to fully give our all to help anyone that we love or anyone that we know that's in recovery.
I Um, I admire your courage because it just reminded me of something that Steve Jobs said. He said the people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who actually do it. You know,
I know that quote. Yes.
and and sometimes all it takes is one or two people to really make a movement.
Right.
And you guys, you and Bobby are making a movement, and I can see
And my community, let me say, and my community and my family, because I want to mention that my family is behind me, not only my husband and kids, but Bobby's family, and that my brother and his wife and and Bobby's sister are all heroes as well. They knew when to give over. They they were an important part of how he ultimately recovered. And now there's so much love there and respect between all of them.
right. Yeah, that because I'm sure that was hard as a parent.
It's very difficult as a parent. I would think I felt like a parent, but I know it's very different. And I don't know if I would have been able to do what I did if it was one of my children. I don't know. All I know is I did what I did, and then looking back at it, the things that we did and the things that I have uh, uh, put in the book, the structure and the discipline, and seeking help for myself. I went to a psychologist the whole time and would say, I don't know how to handle this, or I don't know what to do with my husband, or how can I balance my life? I wouldn't have been able to do it without talking to someone. That would be my best advice to any caregiver. Find someone, a priest, an Al-Anon, somebody in your church, somebody that you can talk to, a psychologist, a psychiatrist. That's the best advice for a caregiver that I could give.
Good. That was my next question as well. What advice would you leave someone who might be in a similar situation?
Well, of course, for the caregiver, I would definitely say you seek help as well, because we know you're seeking help for the person in recovery. And if you're not, I think that should be on the list as well, because as I've said all along, recovery is just beginning when they're leaving the doors of a rehab center. So we need to figure out what problems the recoverer has. This vulnerable time as they're leaving and going out into the world. And I think we need to make it known that there needs to be more done for those that are trying so desperately. They're now substance free.
Right.
Let's don't leave them there. Let's continue to lift them up for that period of time where they're assimilating back, getting their feet on the ground, finding a job, which can be so difficult, and
Right.
giving them back their self-esteem.
Right. Well, I hope that I can see that this book could really make a difference in the opiate epidemic nationwide, and I hope that it really spreads and that takes on. I know that what kind of impact is it having on the medical community? I know that some of the medical community has read your book. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, the medical community, the ones that have read it, have all gotten behind the book. I've been very proud of that. Not knowing how they would view it, who has taken in her young nephew and learned with him how to help him back to society and recovery. So for a physician, a surgeon. There's pediatricians and social workers and psychologists. They're all writing me now. And they are like, this is fabulous. This is where we need to go. This is a missing piece of the puzzle. And I've been very, very pleased with how that community has gotten behind Saving Bobby.
Good.
Yeah.
And you have a panel discussion scheduled
In Charlotte.
in Charlotte?
Yes. Charlotte, North Carolina. I think it's on the 19th of May at 2 p.m.
Find out about that on your website, right?
Yes, thank you. They can find out about it on my website.
And I will put that in the comment section of
Okay.
this video.
Great.
Where do you see your life going from here, Renee?
Well, publicizing a book is not something that I ever thought I would be doing. But Bobby and I are heading down to Louisiana, and we have several book signings, one in New Orleans on May 8th at the Garden District Bookstore, and one at Lafayette, Louisiana at Barnes & Noble's on the 10th. Then we swing back through and do a full swing through North Carolina. And then we head out to several different states. And what I'm really proud about is that I've been talking to high school students. And they seem to be very, very interested in this topic and the recovery topic and how to help their classmates re-enter into the school environment. It's a very difficult thing for a young person to go back into high school, middle school, or college. And I think this no blame, no shame, I think this thought to them is very appealing.
Wow, that's great. Well, keep us informed. We would like to know what's happening so that we can keep everyone informed of where you're going to be, so that your followers can go to the book signings. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today, Renee.
Well, Anne, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And we wish you the best of luck, and we are behind you 100%.
Thanks so much. I certainly appreciate that. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.